Wickliffe coach Marce Porcello. How's camp been?
We've had a great 2 weeks. Kids are working hard, a lot of intensity, a lot of enthusiasm. Just kind of building off the last couple of years. These guys are we've got some great leaders emerging, and we've had a great 2 weeks. Not a lot of guys, but they're working really hard, doing a great job. So.
How have you seen the impact of the last two senior classes sort of manifest in this year's group of leaders that you're hoping to develop?
Yeah, the leaders that we're developing this year, they're kind of taking the same mindset that leaders did the last couple of years, but kind of putting their own stamp on the program, and they've done a great job so far. Very positive, encouraging, and they're leading us really well so far.
How does this team make a third straight postseason appearance?
We're 1 day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 game at a time. But these guys are focused, and I think once you start winning, there's a competitive nature to these guys that they've developed, and they want to get back there, and they believe they can, and they're competitive kids, and they work really hard at it. And if 1 game at a time, but that's our number one goal: to get back to the postseason, and with great leadership and a great attitude, which I've seen so far, I think we can get back there.
I know Brad had a pretty big task last year, taking over for Lucas with everything that he did for you guys, both on and off the field. How's he look? Does he look more comfortable this year?
He looks great. He had some big time plays last year. There were some games where it came down the wire. West G's one game that I remember. He had a great. We had a great drive with him throwing the ball down the field to set up an overtime, and then he made a couple of great passes in overtime to win the game. He came up big for us last year, and he's a student of the game, very mature kid. He loves football, and he's studied the game. He's worked really hard in the off season, and he looks a lot more comfortable than he did last year. Even he understands it a little better. And as a senior, he's a leader. He's a captain, and he comes every day and wants to be coached. So what else can I ask for? And I'm very, very comfortable with him at quarterback.
Chase Fortcamp comes from some pretty good lineage with his brother Justin being a multi-year starter for you guys. How have you seen the experience of last year sort of help him as he moves into a role as one of the guys on your team?
Right, yeah. Chase is only a sophomore. He played both ways as a freshman last year and made he definitely stood out on our defense, and then he made some great catches on offense as a receiver. Probably use him more as a running back this year, and he's going to play inside linebacker instead of outside linebacker. But he's a sophomore. It doesn't act like a sophomore. He has experience. He's a leader already as a sophomore. He flies to the ball. He hits. Calls out all of our defensive strengths and adjustments. So he's a kid as a sophomore that you can put a lot on his shoulders, and he handles it. He's been handling it really well so far.
Isaac's had 2 excellent seasons the last couple of years. What are your expectations for him? I mean, what do you want to see him accomplish in his final high school football season?
The sky's the limit for him. He's a kid. He's a great leader. He's a humble kid. He's a mature kid. He wants this more than anybody I've ever coached. One of the hardest working kids I've ever coached. And he loves Wickliffe, and I expect him to do great things this year. He's willing to. He has to play defense this year. He has to play special teams, and so that'll be his challenge. But I think he's up for the challenge. He's ready for it, and I expect him to have a huge year if he keeps working, which I know he will.
What do you expect from the CVC Valley?
It's a good change for us, but it's also, it's not going to be a free ride to the playoffs or anything like that. I mean, there's some tough teams in the Valley. The difference is the numbers against most teams. We have 25 guys, so the numbers, at least we match up there. We have hopefully similar guys going both ways as the teams we're playing, as opposed to being in the Chagrin. Not a lot of guys going both ways, and we had to do that the last couple of years, playing 14, 15 guys total. But there's Division 7 runner-up and Division 6 runner-up, so it's some tough competition still. So we gotta play every game.